Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday morning, January the 22nd, here on Hoops Talk with Dave. I'm your host, Dave Smith, here bringing you all the action from yesterday, as well as previewing a ton of action we've got on the slate tonight. First up, in our game of the night last night, the Tennessee Volunteers beat number 14 ranked Mississippi State 68-56. Behind 23 points from Chaz Lanier, the Bulldogs dropped that one on the road. The score was 34-16 at halftime. Mississippi State was able to cut into that lead and make it a 7-point game before Tennessee pulled away to finish them off. Staying in the SEC here, the Texas Longhorns getting a much-needed win at home, much-needed quad one win at home, I should say. Arthur Kaluma scored 14 points, and Texas pulled away late 61-53 over the 22nd-ranked Tigers. On the West Coast, the UCLA Bruins beat Wisconsin 85-83, snapping the Badgers' 7-game winning streak. Wisconsin led by 5 points at the half, but a massive 49-point second half from the Bruins led to them winning this one. Ohio State, the Buckeyes, go on the road into West Lafayette, into Mackey Arena, and take down the Purdue Boilermakers, led by Micah Paris, scoring 17 of his career high, 22 points in the second half, helping Ohio State rally from a 16-point deficit. They opened the second half on a 15-0 run or a 17-2 run, whichever one you prefer to look at. They were down by 13 at that halftime mark, won the second half by 16, and won the game 73-70, a massive win for the Buckeyes to push them into the field for now, in my eyes at least. A few teams with some bounce-back performances after losing on Saturday. Iowa State, big win, hosting UCF 108-83. Marquette on the road at Seton Hall, taking care of them 76-59. And UConn escapes back-to-back losses, beating Butler 80-78 in overtime. Over in Dallas in the ACC, number 25th ranked Louisville overwhelms SMU. The Cardinals winning this one 98-73, and they led wire to wire in this one, never really close at any point in this game. They took care of business on the road. Great win for Louisville to help solidify that tournament resume. And staying in the ACC for the final college basketball game I want to touch on last night, Wake Forest, the Demon Deacons, take down the UNC Tar Heels as they win 67-66. They've got Duke coming in town on Saturday, another big one in the ACC there. Over in the NBA, we've got some news to recap. First, yesterday, a trade that was made between Danny Ainge and the Utah Jazz with the Phoenix Suns. Utah, of course, receiving a lot of first-round picks in the trades of Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. They were able to consolidate some of these with Phoenix here, giving Phoenix 3 first-round picks. These first-round picks are protected, and by protected, I mean they are the worst pick between the 2025 first-round pick between Cleveland and Minnesota, whichever one least favorable there. In 2027, the least favorable pick of Cleveland, Minnesota, and Utah. And in 2029, the least favorable pick of Cleveland, Minnesota, and Utah. So Phoenix adding 3 first-round picks. All of them presumably will be somewhere in the 20s as they will get the least favorable of those. And in return, Utah consolidates those and gets Phoenix's 2031 unprotected pick. And of course, it's natural to look down the road and say, that's 6 years from now. How are you going to justify this trading 3 first-round picks for that? But Utah has a ton of first-round picks. They've got a ton of ammo. They're looking to help teams like Phoenix who need to make a big move because Phoenix is right on that edge of competing, and they know that their time is going to run out. And that's why that 2031 unprotected pick that Utah has now is going to be so valuable because players like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal and whoever Phoenix may trade for, such as Jimmy Butler, which is another big reason that Phoenix made this trade, I think at least, set up a Jimmy Butler trade. And I think this was a great move for both sides. We've seen Danny Ainge do this before where they've kind of trade to set themselves up with a great future here with other people's picks. Last time he had other people's picks, it was in Boston. When he had the Nets picks, he drafted Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown there. How's that working out for Boston? Moving to a couple of scores from last night. The Knicks edged the Nets 99-95, and the Nuggets handle the Sixers big time. They're a big time win for Denver in that one. And looking at a couple of games on the docket tonight in the NBA. First, on League Pass, Celtics Clippers out west. Boston 9.5-point favorites over the Clippers in LA. Sticking with League Pass here for a second. 8 o'clock Eastern, Cavs in Houston against the Rockets. Cleveland 2.5-point favorites. And on ESPN, we've got a doubleheader with the Timberwolves and Mavericks first up at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. The Timberwolves are 2.5-point favorites in Dallas. And then at 10 o'clock Eastern, the Golden State Warriors traveling to Sacramento to take on the Kings, who are 7.5-point favorites in that one. And once again, 10 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. ESPN. And finally, some great college basketball games, I should say, to look out for tonight. Starting in the SEC, the game of the night, Texas A&M at Ole Miss. That one, 9 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. Ole Miss, a 3.5-point favorite. Staying in the SEC here, Florida, the Gators, traveling on the road to South Carolina. Florida, a 10.5-point favorite in this one. Don't sleep on the Gamecocks, though. They will knock somebody off. They may knock multiple teams off, especially playing on their home floor. Could one of them beat tonight? We'll find out. 7 o'clock Eastern on SEC Network. In the Big 12, 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2, the Kansas Jayhawks taking on the TCU Horned Frogs, who are fresh off their upset of Baylor. Kansas still a 6.5-point favorite in this one. And finally in the Big East, two teams vying for tournament position. Xavier on the road at St. John's. St. John's a 7.5-point favorite. They have been really fun to watch this year, coming in at 16-3. Their margin of losses is the smallest of anybody in all of college basketball. The 3 losses they have, they've lost by a combined 5 points. This St. John's team is not one to sleep on. I like them to take care of business there. Once again, that one's 7 o'clock Eastern on Fox Sports 1. And that will do it for today's episode of Hoops Talk with Dave. Just to let you know, we may have more episodes in the future as we get closer to the NBA trade deadline. There's a chance we could have some emergency episodes to get you a quick recap of what's happened in that NBA trade there. Also, for all the latest news and updates, please follow me on X, follow me on Twitter, whichever one you prefer to call it, at Dave Smith NBA. Once again, that is Dave Smith NBA. Thank you for joining us. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning. I'm your host, Dave Smith, on Hoops Talk with Dave.